Hello everyone and welcome to McKween Day 2. Now before we start, I want to talk about my content for this month. Originally, I had planned to do just edited content and focus on that, but I have since changed my mind, and maybe some of you have noticed, but I am streaming McKween stuff. I'm not like a great streamer or like that entertaining, but I do enjoy it. Also, my editing software has been like really testing my patience lately. I think I fixed the problem, but since I am streaming, it helps make me feel a little better that I accomplished in sharing my art for that day. I have also decided that I will still be posting my drawings in edited form, and I have done some prompts off stream, but if you are interested in my streams, I will be here every day except Sunday and maybe Wednesdays. Wednesdays tend to be my girl evenings with Chrissy, so I like to do that instead. But for those who like my edited content, I will be trying to do that as well. Hopefully that all makes sense. I'm kind of in a space right now where I really am not liking my edited content results, so I'm hoping this month we can see some sort of improvement. But besides that, we have 3 drawings for today's video, 1 hollow design and 2 McKween prompts. The prompt is Vial and both drawings use that prompt. One is the like vial that is like a test tube vial kind of like, and then vial meaning like disgust is the other one. So let's get into it. Okay, so for today's hollow design, we are doing a Monster Girl randomizer redesign. Now, if you haven't seen me do one of these before, I'll give you a quick rundown. There is an app called Monster Girl Maker, and you can use it to design characters. This app is made by YCHs. They are an amazing artist. I highly recommend you check them out if you've not heard of them before. But one of my favorite things about this app is the randomize button. What it does is it gives the characters a completely randomized selection of character features, outfits, and colors. And what's even better for the colors is it's always like a nice saturated color scheme, so you can always pull a fun color palette. But since the designs themselves from the randomize button don't always look appealing, it's very, very fun to pull your own designs from it. It's kind of like solving a puzzle. I've done this quite a bit on my channel, and it is one of my favorite character design challenges to do. I highly recommend that you give it a go if you enjoy character design or need practice. It really challenges your creativity and especially challenges your color balance. Now, I should also mention that Monster Girl Maker is available online if you don't want to get it on your phone. I will link that in the description, and there are 2 versions of the game. One where you can customize a character from the shoulders up. That was the first rendition of the game. Then YCHs made a second one, and the second one is more of a full body customization, but both are really fun, and I recommend trying both. You may honestly prefer one over the other. For my channel, I tend to use Monster Girl Maker 2, the full body one, and I think I'm honestly gonna do a few episodes where I use the first one, because both are really good. Honestly, I've just been using the second one just because it's the more recent update, but I really have some nostalgia for the first one because I really, really like it. Now for the redesign we are doing today, we get to draw an alien character. I will obviously put the original selection up on screen for you to look at and compare. I feel like I have been on an alien kick these past 2 years, which I know sounds a little weird, but I feel this way, especially since we've made Dusk and Roxanne, which are just 2 of my best designs. And Dusk was actually also a Monster Girl randomizer redesign. He is one of the few Monster Girl makers that got gender swapped into male. There are 2 of them total, I think. It is him and Miser are 2 troublemakers. Honestly, some of my best work. But for this character, I actually feel like I strayed so much from the original design, more than I normally do. Most of the time I can see key features that I kept, but for this one, I just kept the hair shape, big alien eyes, a tail, and the pants. But the thing is, like, all those features got changed quite a bit. I really went on one of my own tangents with this design and just did my own thing, which isn't a bad thing. It just means I was all business. Now, I did have an absolute blast with her haircut. So cute. I just think it looks so darling. I also gave her elf ears to match the energy that her hair is giving. I love that she has 2 shape themes, those pointy edges in the hair, eyes, ears, and eventually tail, then the round shape overall for her body type. I think it just looks so cute. Her eyebrows also even read both of the shape themes. Shape themes is a key detail in KateKruzan character design. Now for the pants, if you look at the original, you may notice that the character is actually wearing 2 sets of pants. The one on the top is more of like a capri pant, so it's shorter on the leg, and the bottom one has some holes in it. I thought it would be cool if I took the bottom pair of pants, the holes from the bottom pair, and made it more of a prominent feature to the design. I think the holes in the pants just add to the character's overall slight edginess, because I do think this character is giving more bold, fierce energy than like someone with wearing capri pants would. Something I did veto from the original design was those wings. If you know me, you know I do not like drawing wings. I especially don't like these specific ones from the Monster Girl Maker app, and I will tell you why. Those wings are just so not detailed, and they are just so very flat. I know wings are flat, but in the drawing they look flat. And the designs or redesigns I make using the app always have more detail, and when I try to use those specific wings with the design, I feel like it always cheapens it. It just makes it look ugh, and I just end up not liking it. It just makes it look unbalanced. So that is why I decided against it. I also just like keeping a character to either a tail or wings, one or the other, unless they are a dragon or it's very intentional to the species. But for the most part, I like having one or the other, not both, because I do feel like if you do it badly, it makes it a really unbalanced character, and these wings also just make a character look unbalanced to begin with. I do think in certain circumstances these wings could work. I'm not saying you shouldn't try and use them, it's just my experience. I really rarely ever enjoy them. But if you want to try, be my guest. And that's no hate to Ghoul Kiss for adding this to the app. I'm sure it works for some people's character designs. It's just not KateKruzan character design worthy. I actually did do a different arm and hand pose for this ref. I know it's not that different, but it's different enough. So please feel free to congratulate me for not doing my normal ref sheet pose. If you know, you know. But the line art for this drawing, like, actually looks quite nice. Not gonna lie, like, I really like how it turns out. Something I also did was match the tail to the hair by adding hair to the tail. I thought that would really tie in the design together, but also would help tie in the colors and the color balance, because I'll be able to use the same colors in the hair, at the top, and towards the bottom on that tail. Now for the colors, I of course had to make the skin that blue color. That color is just so darn majestic. I literally am obsessed. So unbelievably cute, and will also make this character unique and stand out, because how often do you see a character with this like bright blue color? Not very often. Anyway, after layering down that blue, I just play with some gradients. Since her skin is a big feature to the design, we want it to be unique, and gradients just seemed like a fun way to do that. Plus the original has that blush on the cheek, so it has its own version of that, so it fits with the original concept. I thought that was a really good idea. After that, it's just balancing my selected colors from the original. I never use all the colors from the original art piece. And I highly, highly recommend, if you do this Monster Girl Randomizer redesign challenge, do not force yourself to use all the colors. It's a losing battle. Just trust me on this. It's not ideal. I have been through that. No fun. I am sure on my channel you have heard me say before, if you've been here for a character design, that 4 to 6 colors is the most ideal color palette. Unless you're doing a rainbow color palette, then that's an exception. But 4 to 6 colors is the best color palette. That's gonna make the most ideal character. Obviously there are some exceptions, but I stand true by that, and I will die on that hill. Now, after adding that theme of gradients, which might I add looks stunning, I ended up adding stripes as another theme. If you've been here a while, you may know that I do stripes way too often. And I actually do agree with that. I do agree with that sentiment. It's just, I don't know, one of my comfort themes, apparently, subconsciously. It's just my favorite thing to do. But the hair had its own element of stripes, so it was actually like the next best option for adding another theme. I know I overdo it with the stripes, but please allow it this time. I think it actually looks quite good on her, and I just felt like she needed another theme to fill that space. And we all know Katie loves to fill the spaces of her characters to the max and make sure it's completely busy and, very complex. I also did add some like stripe colors to the ends of her hair and her ears, which looked so cute. I really, really like that feature. I love the final results of this design. She is classified as an alien and does live in my galaxy section. She does not have a name yet, so any suggestions are very much welcomed. You can always find my character's Toy House pages in the description if you are interested in that. I think this character is really solid, really bold. Honestly, I really love her. One of my favorite things about her is her chest. I love a good, bold choice design, something to make the character stand out. And I think my design choice really takes the cake. Go be bold. Trust me, it's worth it. Just be sure you're doing it for the right reasons, of course. Alright, now the next drawing will be a digital one and will be based on the prompt Vial, V-I-L-E, Vial as in disgust. And since this will be a heavy emotion-based drawing, what better character to use than my mini-me, Katie? We all know in general I will always get the better results with her, but I will especially do better in the emotion category with her in general. But I also thought it would be fun to include another mini-me besides Katie, and that is Catherine. I thought it would be fun since when it comes to disgust, she is one of the more vocal characters. She would not hesitate to yell at someone for being repulsive or nasty. I also really want to work on more of my other mini-me's gallery, even if that includes just throwing them in the background as a touch of flavor. Now we are focusing on expression, line work, and uniqueness with this drawing. We want it also to be a bit of chaotic fun since it is mini-me's and we can be fun and expressive with them. Something I tend to also focus on with expressions is the eyes. If you can't read the expression from the eyes without any of the other features, then you aren't doing it right. Just in human life, we can communicate a lot with just our eyes. I do think I definitely have room to improve in my art when it comes to this specific topic, but it's something I've been trying to be more aware of in my art, especially for my mini-me's. So if you can't tell the emotion from the eyes alone, it's best to try again and see if you can find room to improve. Maybe that entails the iris shape changing, maybe changing the size of the pupil, like I like to do cat pupils sometimes, so like if it gets wide or if it gets like really thin. You could even go out of bounds and make the iris shape a triangle or square, or the pupil a triangle or square, or some random fun shape. There are technically no wrong answers as long as your emotion gets across to the viewer. I also like to use lines around the iris to give a shaky vibe. I do that quite a lot in my mini-me drawings. Just experiment with it and be loose and creative. Again, there are no wrong answers. You just need to be able to convey your emotion across to the viewer. Ooh, actually, something unique I can do specifically with Katie is use her eyelashes to convey emotion. So in this drawing, I gave them like a spiky line instead of the normal neutral curve. It's stuff like that that you can really be creative with, even if it's not necessarily realistic. Realism doesn't have to matter in your art unless that's what you strive for. For me, it was a while until I really understood that I could do my own thing and not feel like it wasn't okay for other people to enjoy. And I didn't have to follow guidelines on what something theoretically should look like. What matters to me is that my art reflects how I view things in my brain, not how they realistically are. This was actually very important to me this year. I have a friend that I wanted to draw, but since I am terrible at realism and capturing someone's like realistic face, I got very caught up in my brain and felt my attempts weren't good enough. But after trying for a while, I really started to think about why this mattered to me so much, to make it realistic. I started to realize that the people who really cared would rather have a drawing of how I view them rather than a forced, realistic perspective. That really solidified my identity in my style lately. I think it's something I really need to push myself more on, is to be comfortable with my style rather than wanting to appeal to the realism perspective that everyone sees and focus on how I see it. But I suppose that's just a KateKruzan tangent and doesn't have that much to do with the drawing. For adding Catherine, I really wanted her to be like the vocal character in the image, practically yelling at whatever they are reacting to. I also used her hair to help convey the emotion. Kind of like how you could draw smoke coming out of a cartoon character's ears to express anger. I used her hair, popping in some random strands, making it look big, and adding to like her feral behavior. I also just really like enjoying being silly with Catherine's hair. It's quite fun to draw. Something very prevalent in this drawing is what I call my lines of distraction. If you've been in my streams before, you've probably heard me say that a couple times. It's just something I do to help with the flow of a drawing and the emotion. I also like that it fills in some of the dead space. That is something I don't like having, especially in character designs. I don't like dead space. I like things to be busy and full. It also helps for the direction of the drawing, which I think I could have changed. The arm placements between Katie and Catherine mimicking each other, but in the opposite arms and hands, was intentional. I felt like it had the possibility of pulling the viewer's eye in, but I'm not sure. I think I should have changed the angle of Catherine's right arm a little to go more inward towards her chest, like Katie's is, but maybe not, because I do like the final result where we can see her shirt's design. I say all this to come to the conclusion that I think this drawing could use better angles of the arms to pull the eye in better. What the solution to that would be, I'm not sure, but I think if I did redo this drawing, that is something I could improve on and experiment with. By the way, I should probably define by what I mean lines of distraction. My lines of distraction are like the lines I throw on my sweater to add like shape to fabric. Sometimes it's the lines I add on the knuckles or the wrists or knees to my characters. Just lines that fill in the space that aren't necessarily realistic. See, we're back to the realism thing. This is just how Katie sees stuff. It just fills in the dead space where there might technically be realistic detail, but fills it in with more like cartoony lines, and it adds a little tiny bit of depth, but also very much more flow to the drawing if I didn't have it. Hopefully that makes sense. Something I did add to this drawing that I don't normally do is I focused more on line variation in the line work. So you can see me like lining something in and then afterwards going back over it and adding more thickness to some sections. I think this really improved this drawing and honestly looks really fun. I might continue to do that. Sometimes I don't like to do that because it just takes up so much time. But I did do that with this drawing. So good on me. For the background, it ends up quite being unique. I really had no intention or concept of a background when going into the drawing. I just had the idea of the characters and the poses, which is something I need to stop doing. I need to think of a background before I do a scene. I've talked about this on stream when I did, you know what, I won't spoil it. Let's just say I talked about this on stream before, but I always end up not thinking about a background, and that is really stupid. It's a habit I've had for forever, and I think I can just like wing my way through a background. I should stop doing that because I only end up making the final results, I wouldn't say cheapened, but I definitely could improve with backgrounds because I never end up doing scene work or stuff that's just really cool. I end up only focusing on the character, which is fine for a lot of drawings, but I think I'm in an era in my art style where I really need to start improving on backgrounds and doing scene work and making things cooler. I need to quit doing my abstract safe space, which I love my abstract background work. It's fun, it's unique, and it does look really good in this drawing in the end. I will say the background's really fun, and I do actually improve all the time on my abstract work for backgrounds, but like I do need to pull up my big girl pants and move on from abstract work because Katie could really use some improvement in that area. Honestly, when it comes to my abstract work in backgrounds, it really is just filling in dead space and making things flow and be balanced. That's really all it takes for a good background. I also added some like text, so I put yuck and Vial, which made it look cute and quirky and fun, which I quite like. But the end result is quite cute and I do like it, despite it, you know, being a silly background. I really like the final results of this drawing. Again, if I did this again, I would probably change the angles of the arms to pull the eye in better. But even then, I do feel like that is a bit picky of me to say. It's really not that important. What was important was the expression, and I think I nailed it. If you disagree or have feedback, that is always appreciated, and I am totally here for some other perspectives. Okay, to start this drawing, The word we are going off is vial, V-I-L-E, not vial, V-I-A-L. V-I-A-L-E means like a tube, like, you know, like a science, honestly, like almost like a sciencey tube, not a beaker, but one that's cylindrical. V-I-A-L is like, I believe it's like you look at something and it's like disgusting, like, oh, that's vile. So those are the difference. If you want to do the other alternative word, be my guest. You don't have to stick with the V-I-L-E. You could do V-I-A-L if you want to. But today we are doing the tube type of vial. Now my first sketch, my first pass through did not work out. But my second sketch, I decided I would draw Kai, which is my mini-me. She is like my blood-themed mini-me. She has no limbs necessarily, but she can like spawn limbs out of like her blood. So I thought it'd be cute if I put her in a little vial, because that made sense to me. So that's what I did. I drew her just sitting in it and a hand holding the vial. I didn't pick any specific character to be holding the vial, and I ended up just using the extra paints I had from the last page to do the hand because I didn't want to waste paint. And I'm like, I might as well, because Kai or Key, I'm sorry, have I been calling her Kai? I have Kai and Key, and oftentimes my brain just will auto say the opposite for no reason. Her name's Key. Kai is like my little like Valentine's Day mini-me. I'll just describe her as that. She's my Cyclops girly. She's my little heartthrob, she is. But I figured I would just use that extra paint from yesterday's page because I didn't want to waste paint, and Key is mostly gonna be red, so it's gonna make a good contrast. Actually, when I was sketching out this drawing, I was like, maybe I should use some mediums that aren't acrylic ink or paint, because I didn't want, I don't know, I might scrap this, but I don't want every single page to be using the same medium, so I can experiment to the fullest of my capabilities. But it ended up just being my same stuff that I used for the last page. I even used a lot of the same colored pencils because I'm like, I know they work well on this color. Why wouldn't I use it? So that helped. I also thought painting part of Key's, like, just painting Key in instead of lining, I would really mess up because the sketch isn't like perfect, but I managed to do pretty all right. Painting in those lines for her outfit, I was really nervous that it wouldn't come in to the end and tie all together, and I would have to like get some white paint and like paint over it, and then that white paint wouldn't match the sketchbook page. It was just a little bit of nervousness, but I ended up conquering that, so I really didn't need to worry about it. And then I was on to lining, which was probably my least favorite part. It just typically is. It's just so slow, and I have to worry about not smudging, and I feel like it never ties in until the whole thing's done when it comes to lining with a ballpoint pen. I also used the brush pen a few times just because, I don't know, I was trying to fill in thicker spaces, especially when I was trying to get that vial straight. There were some edges that just weren't, and I felt like using my brush pen to correct it would be much better than trying to use my ballpoint pen. The thing with my sketchbook work is like the first sketch, or like the first sketch obviously I didn't use, but typically like the rough sketch of like the next concept I'll use, but like I won't clean up the sketch like hardly at all, which it's okay. I have a habit to have because I can typically work with whatever sketch I have and just fill it in from there, but it's not ideal because I don't know, I'm always like, am I gonna do this right? Am I gonna do this right? I'm always nervous about it, and I'm like, sometimes, man, sometimes. One day I'm just gonna like really butcher this, and I'm gonna literally hate myself for it, which I'm sure has happened before. I just can't think of it. Now, there is room for critique on the hand in this drawing. The last finger's oddly thick. It was good enough. Good enough for me. It's good enough to work. I thought about maybe making the nails red so it could be Roxanne from the last drawing holding the vial, but then I felt like it would clash with the red in the vial, so I didn't do that. And now I'm just busting out my Prismacolors to shade the drawing. I knew going into this, the vial itself, I wouldn't give it that sheen of like a glass vial, like the shading where you'd see like the reflection. I wasn't going to do that because one, I knew I just couldn't, I wouldn't do it well or good enough for me to like it. Also, I think it would just cover her. I want her to be the focal point. I don't want this like shine or shading over her to distract from her. So it's gonna be pretty cartoony. But then again, so is everything I do. That's probably what you're expecting at this point. So I pretty much, actually pretty slowly, actually the shading process is probably the fastest. Just because like, especially for this drawing, there's not a lot to shade in when you think about it. And like the most thing to shade in is the hand, but I'm going to do that like at like big chunks one at a time. So it's going to be really fast, all things considered. I think the shading in that took maybe the longest was the like background, maybe, I don't know. But I'm slowly building up like each shade. I would say I went to back and forth between stuff quite a lot more than I did the last one. The last one I kind of just did one color at a time. This one I kind of built it up more just because there's a lot going on. And like the back of the vial, right now in the drawing, it's very, very white, the vial is. I don't want it to stay like that, so I ended up going back and building up color and like slowly building up darkness. Because oftentimes, and this used to be something I always would do, is not shade dark enough in darker spots. That's the difference between like a really, really good artist and a mediocre one. Is like a really good artist can like put really, really dark shadows and make it work. I don't think I've reached that moment. I don't think I'm there yet. But I'm really trying to do that. So in the vial to shade it, I used red, 2 different types of blue, like a lighter one and a darker one, and then yellow. I tried to place yellow strategically around the vial. That way it looked like the hand was reflecting off of it just like subtly, which ended up looking pretty good. When it comes to shading things dark enough, like I just mentioned, Key's hair was a challenge because I wanted to keep the nice highlights, but it needed to be dark. I'm still not sure if I did it quite dark enough, but her hair is a dark gray color. It's not totally black, so I mean, it does look like her, but I think maybe I could have pushed it a little more. I also took a brush pen and I went around Key just to make her pop out from that hand a little more because she was kind of fading into it a little bit. And then I was on to shading the hand, which I just layered a light blue, dark blue, and then a red. I love this type of shading where you just like fill in the shadows where you think it is in the middle and then leave the rim around it with like the same color as it, like the base color. That is one of my favorite shading techniques. I know like my style's cartoon, so I don't need to make shading make sense perfectly realistically. So this is like one of my favorite ways to do that. It reminds me of the Paper Mario shading, although like the shading in there in the game isn't like too like complex. It's just so, I love it very, very much. I also love that the final product, it like in person, it has really good texture. Like it's not all smooth. You can tell it's made by hand. It's very, very nice. I really like it when pictures have texture. And shade in the red, I didn't use any colored pencil. I tried one colored pencil, but the thing is with this red acrylic ink, I plopped it down so thick. Colored pencil is just not going to take to it, which is fine. I kind of anticipated that, so I knew I would use a ballpoint pen to shade. And here is the final traditional piece. I really liked this drawing. I thought it was such a cool thing to do for Key. She's a mini-me I just haven't spent a lot of time on recently. I used to draw her way more often, and she was actually kind of like a peak comfort character. Goodness, what was it? During 2020, I think it was? She was a peak comfort character for a while, and then she kind of faded out. But I really had a fun time drawing her for this traditional piece, and I feel like she just fit the prompt so well, and it's just really, really cool. Thank you all for watching today's video. Let me know if you stayed to the end by commenting Kat, K-A-T. He is the mini-me you see on screen. The little bop cat we all love and know. If you want to see the animation in the background, it's on my main channel, KateKruzan, the one you're watching this video on. It is called the Wonder Pop Meme, and it's of Kat, and it's a great video. I recommend you check it out. But really, thank you for staying for today's video. I'm actually quite proud of today's video. I finished and edited it all in one day. I mean, it is 3 a.m. But like, I'm really proud of it, and I'm really glad God gave me the strength, the patience, the courage, and I would say energy, but I'm not like full of energy. I've drinking a ridiculous amount of Diet Coke today, that is for sure. But I just give God all the praise and glory. Be sure to let me know your thoughts below on all the art for today in the comment section. Remember to do justice, love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. I love you. God loves you. Stay safe.